Hey everybody, before we get into this week's episode, we just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's listened to and watched our episodes so far. If we can ask a big favour of you, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please hit that follow and give us a rating. It'll help us a massive amount and reach more and more people. Thanks again, everyone. Welcome to Over the Falls podcast, episode number 28. This week, we sat down with Nathan Davies, head chef of local restaurant SY23. Nathan and his team achieved a coveted Michelin Star for culinary comfort and excellence. We discussed the journey he's been on, from cooking for his family at age 8 to where he is today. The sacrifices, the experiences, influences, family, struggle, and of course, his incredible passion for food and service. Nathan was such an inspiring person to sit and chat to. We cannot wait for you guys to hear it. So here we go. Nathan Davies, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Right, we're going to start right at the beginning if we can and ask, where did the passion for food and cooking come from?
I don't know, kind of like a natural thing really. There was never like a eureka moment where I was like, right, I'm going to be a chef. But I don't ever remember a point where I didn't want to be a chef. So I kind of always... Food's always been in the family, first and foremost. So, you know, my dad used to work away. So we'd go away, he'd work really hard for 4 days. And then he'd come back and we'd have like a long weekend together. And that was a big thing for us, that when my dad was home, food would be a thing. So we'd always sit at the table. But my mum and dad were really good cooks. So I think I always enjoyed that we actually all sat at the table together. Whether it was 2 of us in the house or whether there was 6 of us. So that was always a thing from day one. So also we've always fished. It's called foraging now just because it's a trendy word, but basically we've always like hedgerow jams, pickles and preserves and stuff with my nan for Christmas. So that's always been like a thing. And I don't know when there was the switch, but I remember all the way through secondary school knowing 100% I was going to be a chef. Anybody asking questions, it was always like, yeah, I'm going to be a chef.
Pretty early then.
That's really
yeah. So I was cooking dinner for the family. I remember when we were still in primary school, my mum was retraining to be a hairdresser, so she would get home like, my brother was slightly older than us, but she'd get home maybe 40 minutes or so after we'd got home from school.
Okay.
So then 2 nights a week I'd cook dinner.
Nice.
But I was probably like 10-ish, 11.
That's really young.
That's definitely early.
Yeah. So what I'd do basically is like, you know, my mum would say like, oh, we'll do like a curry or something, whatever. So I'd have had everything chopped, and then when she gets home, then
she whips it together then.
Yeah. So we'll put it together. Which I look back now and I think like that was mental. Like,
10 years old, cook it like that's incredible.
But it was like really normal. It wasn't like a thing. Like nobody was like, "Oh wow, look."
No,
it was just completely normal. Yeah,
that's so cool. And where was that? Where were you brought up?
So I was born in the Midlands. I was born near Wolverhampton, but basically grew up near Llangrannog, or sort of like that.
Oh, okay, wow.
So Cardigan was like the school I went to, and this is home. Like it's not, even though I was born in the Midlands. It's the only thing I love about going back there is going to watch Wolves play. But
Nice.
Apart from that, like I don't go. But you know, there's not really any family left there and stuff. So
How old were you when you moved here then?
probably about six
Okay.
or 7.
It's pretty young now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, most.
So yeah,
That's
home
enjoyable.
is Wales, West Coast. I've kind of lived a bit all over. So I've lived in like near the Brecon Beacons, like Built Wells area, where it's like really lovely and rural as well. So anywhere in Wales really feels like home, to be honest. It's just fucking cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a great place to live.
The West Coast is
Especially when you like lived away and you've been in a city or something like that, and you come back here, you realise that it's such a good place to live.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Well, that's it. Like so after that little bit of school, when I kind of, you know, even at school I was going to catering classes, and I was probably the youngest there by about 25 years. So when I must have been like, it must have been in year 9 or so. So what would that make me, like 13-ish?
Yeah, I think it's 13, 14. You know,
Yeah,
just maybe 14. Yeah.
I did cooking course in the college, like a night school. And I turned up there, it was just fucking loads of old grannies and stuff. But I loved it because it was my first introduction to like a catering kitchen, and I did the same.
And the jump from like home cooked to possibly
you cooking
professionally.
You're cooking on a big massive range, and you're like, I thought I was the absolute business. So I did that. It was only like a 10-week course or something. And then as soon as it finished, I enlisted to do it again. And they're like, you're going to do the same thing, right? And I'm like, yeah, just happy to be here. So I did that.
Wow.
And then when it meant coming to college was like, because I went to Cardigan College, the transition to college was dead easy because I literally finished school.
Yeah.
I'd already applied. I think I'd like applied a year early for the course. And they're like, We'll put you on the list.
This guy
we'll
is
get back
keen.
to you.
He's keen as mustard. This is Nathan again. Let me.
If it was now, I'd be on the WhatsApp group. But back then there was no WhatsApp. So basically, I came straight from school, went straight into college. Worked. I only did 2 years in college because all I literally wanted was that title that said like you are a qualified chef.
Okay.
I don't think it was important, but it was a good transition for me from like being a boy, slightly more mature in college, but not that much, and then going into full-time work. So I was working at the time, a couple of cool little restaurants. I was really, really lucky at the beginning, sort of foundation years of being a chef, and I worked with some really lovely people that were dead keen. I worked in a good environment. I worked at this cool little roadside pub that I used to actually cycle to because I'd obviously been like 15 or 16 at the time.
Yeah.
It was a bit nuts. So I used to cycle to that, and that was really handy because it gave me some money, it kind of get me on the road. I knew it wasn't going to be the sort of thing that I really enjoyed, but they used to be really supportive of like me doing some bits and bobs, and like I wouldn't be if it was a 16-year-old asking me if I can put like bits on the map, like get a grip.
Well, you already at that age, you kind of wanted to put your own stamp on it, a little bit of flair of what you wanted to do.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to do just more all the time.
Yeah.
So was that like your first sort of experience of service and and was there a hierarchy like
massive? There always is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing in the kitchen. It's very, very military, and I think I really enjoy that.
Yeah,
that's something that works for me. Always has done.
Because you know your role, don't you?
Yeah,
you know,
and everybody knows their role.
The structure
and the structure is really important for me. I think.
It's essential.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just madness.
Yeah, and nobody knows what So yeah, basically that was my first exposure to a real life kitchen, and then.
How long were you there for?
Probably around a year, just over a year. But at the same time, so I was doing that college. College was a full-time course, but full-time course something like 30 hours. So I was working there for a couple of nights a week, and then as soon as I got my moped license, I was working at another restaurant about 15 minutes away, but that was a really good restaurant because all they focused there was like fish. It was down this little basically down a little beach area, and they just cooked loads of fresh fish. It was dead tasty. The chef at the time was really good and like very passionate about fresh fish, which is what I've always. My dad's always had this thing where he said to me like, where we live is like if you can cook fish, you'll always be all right.
Yeah.
Because of where we live, nobody else really sort of wants to be that fish restaurant or that sort of like specialise in that, and it's kind of always stuck with me really. So I worked there for a little bit, and then the chef left and went to London because he was just a managing chef. So him and his partner took over this place, and then they left. And then 2 months later, I get a phone call from him, and he says like, "Look, there's a job here in London. Come and get it."
You saw something in you then.
He was just a good guy, He was ace. He was probably one of the first mentors and probably the first of 3 or 4 really good people that I was lucky enough to get into. So yeah, give me a call, and he said, "Look, like there's a job here. Come and have a go." That was probably on a Thursday, and by the Tuesday, I'd committed to moving down to London. And I'd never been to London before. I'd never really been anywhere.
Wow.
How old were you?
Yeah.
It was 18. I must have been just after my 18th birthday because I remember us having a lock-in in that pub or that restaurant for my 18th.
Right.
And then it was literally must have been straight after then. So basically I was there until I could sign my own lease. So because at the time my parents had split up and stuff, and it was a bit shit at home. So I was kind of looking to get away and do something. And being 18, I could lease something. So I could lease my own room. So I was like, right, I'm 18 now, I'm off. So I went down to London, worked at a couple of good restaurants there. And when you talk about hierarchy, like that was the place.
Yeah, that's where it really got solidified.
Yeah, but that was like, you're in a team of say 25 in total. That's including like kitchen porters and expediters on the pass and things. So maybe a kitchen team of like 10 to 15 probably over 3 floors. But like even the pot washers there would be in hierarchy. So you'd have like your 1, 2s and 3s, and then you'd have your head KP.
Hell's
so
bells.
You can imagine like the kitchen was absolutely, it was absolutely
a machine.
If you're slowing me down, I'm coming for you. And that was it. That was the mentality with the chefs. It was wild. It was mental. But
just
I loved
thrust into it, just like...
Yeah. And service there would be a proper adrenaline rush. Like, that was the first kitchen that I'd actually been to and been like, okay, so when they shout, this is away, and they shout 4 minutes, and you've got to get it to them in 4 minutes. It's because all other parts of the kitchen are working together. So, for example, like you might be on the fish, you might be on the garnish, and I might be on the sauce. And if we've got a 4-top coming up, you're shouting 4 minutes, and we're all going yes. And then we have to get there in 4. And that was the first time I'd seen that, and I was like, wow, this is cool. This is quite impressive.
Did you cope with the pressure, though? As in, like, yeah, amazing.
At first, there was a bobble because as you'd imagine, like a lot was going on.
You've got to get used to it. You night after night, you get a bit more structurally familiar, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I listen for that call, listen for that call, listen for that call.
Yeah. And I loved that.
Yeah.
The thing that was a frustrating thing there is because by the time I'd got there, it ended up being 3 of us from the same restaurant in Wales that ended up working in the same restaurant. And we all used to know exactly what we were doing, and we'd all worked together for a long time. So when it comes to like service, we knew that we were good enough to do whatever we were asked of, but they didn't.
Right.
So you kind of got to prove yourself again, and because I was a young kid, probably some scruffy little bastard in their eyes, like turning up and wanting to do everything, and actually you don't get allowed to do anything. You get all the rubbish jobs for a bit, and then you get blamed for everything that doesn't really go well.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a really good lesson, and I did a year there, and that was it for me. I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed that discipline, and it really set me up.
Yeah, of course.
But then I just looked at it as like, there's more. This is not the best way, because at the time, all I'm thinking about as a chef is I want to be the best cook. I want to be the best. I just want to be cooking. And here was like in London, I felt a little bit like it was pulling me back.
Right.
Because by this point, I'd probably had a bit of overexposure to cooking. I'd been working at the fish restaurant where I was cooking fish,
totally fresh,
cooking the whole process, and like really loving that sort of responsibility. But in the eyes of the chef, when I get there, he's like, right, you're almost like being a first team player for ABBA, and then you go and you sign for United, and United go, right, then we'll pop you in the reserves first, and then we might bring you on as a sub. And I didn't really want that. That's not really what I wanted. I wanted to be in and amongst it, and I wanted to be taught how to cook better.
Yeah.
Not for more people or not faster. That wasn't my goal. So I did a year because I thought that at the time, like the CV had to be a year, and then left, and then went through a bit of a patch then because I had basically from all of the work and everything else, it was mayhem, and basically started suffering with bad skin on my hands, like a lot of chefs do. A lot of chefs get like dermatitis, like same as hairdresser or anything else. But not really at the time, not really having a support network to work with. Like I say, parents were kind of dealing with their own stuff, and I was kind of on my own in London, and I was just like, fucking hell, my hands hurt all the time. Like, they look like shit, they're red as hell. And then sort of I thought, I'll take a little bit of a break. So I moved back home. I was there for a couple of weeks. Saw a few doctors, and they were like, "Oh, look, don't worry, this is fine. All you need to do is just like avoid something that you're intolerant to." Turns out it's like lemon scented soap. So like if you get lemon scented fairy, it'll shred my hands. But then everything else, absolutely fine. So
is that what was in the kitchen?
You were washing? So basically there was something in cheap washing up liquid, I guess. So, yeah, so I have a bit of a blip, and I'm like, you know, oh, this is painful. Like, is this going to be like this for my whole career? So that was the first couple of weeks that I ever had out of the kitchen, and then I just like took a second, stopped, assessed my options, and then found probably the best move I ever could have found when I moved to a restaurant in the middle of absolutely nowhere near Bilthwells, and that was I worked for a fantastic chef called Sean, who was just ace. And the minute I walked in the kitchen's fucking trashed. It's really old. It's in a country house hotel, so you know the kitchens are notoriously like slung into the back of the empty space, and it's like they build a country house hotel and they go, oh yeah, we need a kitchen.
No services to it, but
yeah,
bang it all in anyway.
It's the furthest room away from everything, and you're in, you buy the garden, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, but this kitchen was knackered. It was scruffy. It was just exhausted.
Uneven floor.
Oh yeah, everything about it said like you're gonna fall.
Carrying something.
But you know what? I got there and I met this chef, and it was a really. I look back at it now and I think like it was like a bang, like an awakening. Really, kind of like Sean was. I was supposed to meet him, and I did 2.5 or 3 years with him at that kitchen, and then unfortunately like, he stopped cooking. Then he had a bit of a bad time with it. Like he just needed some time to sort his mind out. But the time that I was with him, he was really good, and he just kind of reached out an arm and just said, "Look, like." I think he could rely on me and I could rely on him, and everything just worked. We were in a country house hotel, so we'd have busy nights, we'd have like mental weekends where we were busy, but during the weekdays you'd have quieter spells, and he'd really like, oh look, we're going to do this because of this. And you don't get that in London. That doesn't exist in London.
Too fast paced.
It's too fast.
At the time.
So
you could experiment a bit more. You could.
Yeah, and you know,
you could flourish then.
Yeah, and I was learning these really classical. You know, you're in the middle of the countryside, so this was about game. It was about meat dishes, because I'd already had my cooking of fish really.
Yes, that was done.
You got that in the bank. I always tell chefs that either when they work for me or chefs that I talk to, you look for a rounded CV. Don't just go, when you pick a place to work, why are you going to work for that person? Because that person is going to use you as much as you're going to use them, and it's a positive thing. I don't think that's negative at all.
No, it's just a natural step.
Yeah, why go and work for somebody? If you've worked somewhere and you've learned how to cook loads of different fish, you know, the exposure, me filleting halibuts and turbots and all these fish when I'm like 16 or 17 years old doesn't really happen, because it's a big responsibility to give someone. Whereas Mark, my first chef, was like, you look, I'll teach you, you know, we'll learn it. And so I went in quite well equipped to deal with that sort of stuff in other kitchens, which always give me a bit of a step up, because when people are worried about this fish that's in front of them at 200 quid, they're like, and I'm like, right, okay, right,
big pressure.
Straight in, because I'd already been through that phase at quite a young age, and Sean also exposed me to other chefs. So you know, he had this unbelievable library of books in his office, with like Spanish chefs, Mexican chefs, and I'd only ever really thought about the British chefs. Really, I hadn't really crossed the pond with that. And then I'd start reading the books, and I'm like, oh my god, who the hell are these guys?
Yeah.
And that was amazing. So yeah, so I spent a little bit of time with him, and then when he stopped cooking, literally that was it. I was like, okay, I'm going to move, because I'm only here for him. That was also the place I met my wife. Well, it wasn't my wife at the time, but my girlfriend. The classic sort of chef and waitress scenario. And then from there, moved around a little bit. I was a private chef for a little while in France, which was amazing.
I was going to ask about that. I read about that. Who was that with, and what were you doing, and how did that come about?
How did it come about?
Yeah, is it because you all want jobs in the mountains? Basically,
maybe if I was young.
Yeah, I can't now.
Don't say that. I'm going to go back when I've retired from cooking. Basically, I was a private chef in a privately owned chalet. So it was a very, very small company. Their first year of trading, they were looking for a chef. I was looking for a break. By this point, I'd moved from the lake, that restaurant I was on about. I'd moved to Carmarthen. I didn't really enjoy it. It was just not really the job I was expecting. And then a friend of mine, one of my best friends from school, was like, I'm going to go out to chauffeur in the mountains. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll have a look for a chef job. So then me and Holly took a job, and I loved it. It was ace. I got to ski. I got to immersed myself in this very, very small little village in France, right up on the mountains.
It's like Chamonix or something, or is it a small...
It was Saint-Martin, which is it's basically it's like a little village just below the Three Valleys. Okay. So we were cooking for guests that were expecting very, very good cooking. Mm-hmm. They're paying
top dollar,
tens and tens of thousands per week. But the flip side of that is you have one day off a week, and that one day a week you can do whatever you want. And if you get in there early in the daytime and you get your stuff boxed off, which is a cooking term for ready to go, when you get boxed off, you could then go and have a couple of hours of skiing. Okay. So we'd be up at 6. Yeah. I'd get all my stuff sorted, do a brekkie, make them a lovely cake to get back to whatever else was going on. I was only cooking for 12 guests.
Was that the max? Was that the maximum?
12, yeah. 12 was tops. Yeah. Just me and my wife.
Did that feel quite easy?
No.
Oh, geez, I guess you haven't got the backup of the kitchen and the machine with you, I suppose, if it's just you cooking.
Well, it was an open kitchen, so it was like... And that was my first experience of an open kitchen as well.
Oh, so they were watching you too?
Yeah, so you're...
Sweat on.
Okay. Imagine doing like... When you do a brekkie on a Sunday and you're like... Get the family or the lads come around or whatever else goes on, you're like...
Cooker pops.
6 people, and then you're cooking 6 full breakfast.
Yeah,
and it's quite intense, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But imagine
eggs got to be the right time.
Exactly. Imagine doing that, but for 12 people for like a 5-course dinner every night.
Yeah, and it's staring at you.
Yeah. Come over
paying loads of money.
Lean over the past, like, what are you doing, Nate?
You go, trying to cook.
Got a bit of a dab on, actually.
And you can't snap either. You can't
I'm
go
just
like,
winging this actually.
Don't know what this before.
Yeah, don't know what this is.
I'll tell you in a second.
Tastes good.
Yeah. But that was good. I loved that. That was ace. Just because it was cooking, but it wasn't cooking. It was cooking in a different environment, kind of. And I kind of did it the French way, rather than it would have been dead easy to just jump in the truck and just drive down the mountain. So like, it was good for other things as well, like organisation. Like you're 2 hours away from a shop. So if you want something, if you forget the eggs, and also you go, how many eggs am I going to need for the whole week? You're like, and at first I'm like, oh, I'll get a couple of trays, and then you zoom back down the mountain to get another 5 or 6 trays. So it was really good to kind of just provision and work out actually in your head what do I need.
That's another skill then. So
it
sounds like from the moment you started talking, it sounds like you've had literally the idyllic jigsaw of a chef.
Some parts weren't so idyllic.
Well, no, you know what I mean though. You've done fish from a very young age. You've cooked from a very young age. You've done a beautiful rural place. You've done London. You've done this one-on-one cooking.
Yeah.
Like,
and how old were you by the time we were in France?
Yeah. When was that? Was that in your 20s then?
Yeah, just so I'd probably be like probably 20.
That's a serious amount of experience for a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
maybe 21, maybe 20 or 21. Yeah. But it was good. I loved it. I think.
I'm not saying you didn't love it. I'm just like that's incredible.
Yeah. And I think actually what was really good is because Holly, my wife, by this point, similar sort of work ethic. Absolutely on it. Worked from age 14 or whatever, front of house.
Yeah.
Farmer's daughter. You're not allowed to slack. Do you know what I mean? Like her mom's amazing. And she's always encouraged them to go out. They've always had jobs. So the whole thing really, and that kind of thing. So when people would get to the chalet, they'd probably be like, "Oh, we've got kids taking care of us." And then the first night, I always used to be like quite key on my first night. I always used to like have things like extras. So when they arrive, you have like some nice homemade biscuits for them and like a cake. And when they get there, you've baked a few croissants in the morning or something, and you make them like croque madames or croque monsieurs with some croissants, and you're like, you've had a long drive. Would you like? Do you want a sandwich? Do you want a cup of tea? And when they first get to the chalet, like, how would you have your tea? And then what we do is have a notebook inside the drawer. So, say Holly had asked you if you want to brew when you first get there. So she's like, how'd you take your tea? And then your milk and 1 sugar. So we go in the drawer, she puts milk, 1 sugar, and then puts everybody's name on the sheet. And then basically, when I say to them in the morning at 7 o'clock the following day, I say like, how you doing, guys? You're right. Do you fancy a tea? And then you go, oh, yes, please. And you're like, you go over with a tea, and they're like,
It's made how they want it.
Oh, can I have some sugar? You're like, no, it's done.
It's all in
your
there.
milk and one sugar.
Yeah.
It's good
And they're
service.
like, and
The
they're
little
like,
nice touches for them, basically.
yeah. And then in the morning in the boot room, you've made them like some high energy flapjacks, and you've wrapped them up, and like you put them next to the boot warmers, and you go, I've made you some high energy flapjacks. So when you're out skiing today, put one in your backpack. Even if you don't eat it, we'll get rid of it
The
in
thought,
this evening.
you see, the thought.
Yeah,
That's
but
really
but
good.
if you're on a chairlift and it's cold, get one of them down, and you'll have a lovely day. And they're like, okay,
wow.
and they're like, okay, cool. Now this wasn't something that we were told to do. Like this is just, Holly's amazing at the hospitality side of things.
Yeah.
And that farmer's daughter thing where like she's just ace at looking after people.
Caring about people. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's translated really through to the restaurant, and that's really, really important to me now. But this was the foundation of it, really.
Good team.
Yeah,
That
ace.
sound of it, yeah.
Couldn't do it without her. She's
No.
fucking class.
But those sort of what's the right word? Those added bits that come so naturally to you guys, like that's as a customer, those things are so incredible when they happen.
Yeah,
Like it's you
Good
must know,
service,
you must know.
basically.
Yeah, good
It's
service.
amazing to get good
But
service, isn't it?
when I don't have to ask for something in a
Yeah.
restaurant, oh my god, I can't tell you.
But
how
also,
good that is.
it's what you should be striving to do as a restaurateur, as a chef, as a host. It's what you should be trying to do, and they're only good, those things, if they work organically.
Yeah.
If it's a forced thing, like, oh god, I've got to go.
I've got to,
Got to go and offer you a tea now. Like that doesn't work.
It's going to come through the way
Everybody's
you
it's
you
so
resent
hollow.
it,
Yeah,
Oh,
really, like, do you want a
There's
tea?
your
Do you?
tea.
Do you want a tea? Probably want a tea, didn't he?
fucking sugar's in it.
yeah. So that is how it works, but it only works if it's organic. Because
Yeah.
if it's forced, it's crap.
Yeah.
And then actually you look at it and go like, seriously, it's shit. They might be doing everything that you do in exactly the same way, but there's no love in it. If there's no love in it and there's no care in it, then
You feel it.
it's
yeah.
hollow. So kind of that's where that all started. So by this point, I'm probably like 21-ish.
So while you're in this beautiful location, are you thinking somewhere in your head? Are you thinking one day I'm gonna have a restaurant? One day I'm gonna
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been like a goal at the end, like
Yeah,
light
so
at the end of the
I've
tunnel.
always
sort
had
of
like a jotter pad, like a little A6, and I've always, when I've seen something cool, I write it in the back. So like when you go to a restaurant and they've got something cool, like
a cool light, or
you like
or
do a little
cutlery.
picture of it, and you or like because this is before you took everything picture with everything when you filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Write it down. You like write it down. So in the front of your book, you got all your recipes and your notes and all that sort of stuff. And in the back of your book, you just got like squiggles of like stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like, you go in there like, oh, I like this finish. Like, yeah, I'll put that in. Like, maybe one day I'll use it.
Have you still got that book?
It's probably, yeah, I'll definitely have it somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be
that's
nice
really
to
cool.
look
Yeah.
back in that book, I imagine, like
Yeah.
a little journal going
Yeah,
through it.
sure, yeah.
The main thing I can relate when you talk about this is I did an apprenticeship. I'm an electrician, and it sounds like you've had, like what Med was saying, like a really good apprenticeship where you've happened to have met people who have given you the time. So maybe in London it didn't sound like maybe you had the care and the time, but you need that, don't you? You need to learn off skilled people who are willing to give you the time
yeah,
to invest it in you.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
also, even though London didn't give me the time, it gave me the discipline.
Yeah,
And
it
gave me
gave
the
you
ability.
something.
It gave me the ability to take on what these other people were giving me.
Mhm.
So when these other people are going like, you try and ask people for their life's work. Give them respect. Make sure you listen. Make
Yeah.
sure you're there for them. Make sure if they're gonna be doing a task and you finish yours, make sure you make yourself useful. Make sure that you're there. If the chef is there late, make sure you're with him. If he's on breakfast and it's a busy day, don't ask him if he wants you to come in because he'll say no. Turn up.
Yeah.
And be there and be like, morning, chef. What are you doing, Nath? Big breakfast.
Gonna help.
Be that man, because that's how you get stuff done. And then guess what? When something good comes of it, they go, "Fucking Nath, I can take Nath to this event because he won't let me down."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you know what? There's an opportunity for this to come up. Nath will go to that because he won't let me down, and
Yeah.
that's key.
Yeah.
And that's probably more so so after this little bit of being a private chef was when I came back here basically, and I worked for Gaza and Asir. Then we found out we found out we're having our first child. So I then took a job in a hotel because it was a little bit less paced. I could start work at 10 o'clock rather than 8:30. I kind of needed to be there for my wife when we had the little one.
Of course, yeah.
And then but it made me angry, and it's probably the most challenging part of my whole career was that time of my life.
Why did it make you angry?
Okay.
Because it was I felt like I was, it was pulling me back a little bit. Like there was certain restraints that I came to, and I got a lot more from it. This hotel, I kind of learned a lot more about business. I learned a lot more about. I was exposed to the business side of things, where money was talked about very openly, and how we get to this number, and how this works, and that was my first real thing. And I've always had a real passion for like that side of the business as well. I've always, as much as I love it, if it doesn't make me money, I will not do it. You know, and I think that's where you've got to be, because otherwise you're undervaluing yourself. So I got a lot from it in a different sense, but I was such an angry little twat. I was such a nightmare to be around. Not at home. At home, I've always been able to like disconnect from work, but I was a savage in the kitchen. And it wasn't good for anybody really. Like I was just expecting standards that weren't there, you know, from chefs that didn't have the same expectations of what we were putting on the plate as I did. So then, as soon as my little boy was sort of old enough to go to nursery and Holly could go back to work, tried it at Cardiff. Went to Cardiff for a little bit. I just didn't enjoy Cardiff. It wasn't my bag. So I was only there for a really short period of time. And then came back to Gaz. So Gaz put something up on his Facebook and said, like, looking for chefs of all levels. Okay. And at the time, this is going back a few years, but I'm on like a 45 grand a year job in Cardiff. At the time, for a chef, that was big money. With the prospects of this, that, and the other, and all the everything you'd want to be like, stay. I just didn't get it, and then I took at least a 25 grand pay cut to go back to Anasir. And I just said to guys, like, I'll come back for any position. It was that point when I was in Cardiff. I was just like, I think I'm done with cooking. I think I'll stop. And
I was going to ask you this question: whether you've hit a point in your career when you think, "Fuck this."
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. And I think the pace and the pressure, or what is it?
No,
just
not
like...
the pace. The pace, I get a bit off on the pace. The pace is good. I like that. The pressure, I can live with that. Like, I'm quite good with that. I think it always comes to some points where you go, right, what am I doing? Am I doing this for the right reasons? And when I'm on, I'm very on, and when I'm off, I'm very off.
Okay.
Like, you know, a good example of that. For years, I was a fanatical shooter. So I used to shoot shotgun, rifle, and I'd be out every week shooting clays, or I'd be out with my rifle and I'd be like vomiting, shooting further and further and further, and being like fanatic about like ammunition and all the kit. Fuck, I waste so much money on stuff like that. Like a hobby, I find a hobby. And
you go all in.
Look
then,
at the truck. Yeah,
like.
look at the truck.
Yeah,
you go all in.
I've seen that truck.
So basically, when I'm on, that's it. And then I decide, like, actually, you know what? I think I'm overshooting now. I've got to the point where I want to be. I felt like I was a good shot. I felt like I was good. I put the gun in the cabinet 2 years ago. I've never opened it again.
Whoa.
Just I'm like, that's good. I love it. Ace, perfect. Yeah. See you later. And that's it. That's fine. I'm fine with that, because that's kind of a bit like completing Facebook, isn't it? Like, that done. See you later.
Yeah.
And then move on to the next thing. And I've felt like that a couple of times with cooking, and I'm like, so the first time was probably at this Cardiff job, and I'm just not enjoying it, just not enjoying the vibe. Then go back to Gaz's, take a big pay cut, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. And although it was really, really hard, and I'm lucky that I had the support of Holly, my wife, to go, we can do this. She went back to work a bit more, and we got through it, because literally I said to Gaz, like, this is how much money I need a month to survive. Like, there was no like inflation of figures. It was like, this is my mortgage, this is my bills, that's what I need to work, and that was what he gave me. He said, right, I can afford to give you that, that's it. Okay. I'm like, right, okay. And I went back as a chef de partie. So I was running a kitchen in Cardiff, and then went back to chef de partie. So chef de partie is basically somebody who just runs their section. So it's kind of, you'd have...
Sorry, is this in Anasir? Sorry. Yeah, got you. Okay.
So I'd already worked for him for a little bit. So I'd already worked for him for like 8-9 months. That was like the SAS of kitchens then. then had a break, went to do something else, and then came back to him, and then kind of that was the second or the third really like real mentor. So by this point, I've already been a head chef a couple of times. I've took a massive pay cut, a massive deduction in like position and role to jump on the team, and then just thought I'll give this my all. If I don't do it here, I will quit cooking, and that was it. It was like I am going to stop if it doesn't work here. This is the last chance. And it was brilliant. Like I had 3.5 years, I think, 3.5 years give or take. Me and Gaz worked together every single day. We kind of in the early days we were doing 6 or 7 days a week because we'd finish in the restaurant. We'd then go off and do events, and we'd go and like cook at different restaurants and do pop-ups and all these sort of bits and bobs to kind of get the name of Innisea around, get the exposure, because at the time it was dead. Nobody knew it was there. I mean, even when I was there, so shortly after I'd joined, basically the sous chef decided it wasn't for him because it was fucking crazy. Like you'd start at 7:30 in the morning, you'd be home at 3:30 the following morning, and then you'd do it all again. And it was
absolute family life. How does that not affect your home life?
It does. It does affect. And again, like I know I keep saying it, but luckily for me, like Holly was just super supportive, and I think she kind of knew that I needed this just to kind of get through it, and then I always say to her, like, just 6 months of this and we'll be ace. And I've been saying that for like 12 years. So
it's worked.
So when she hears it now, she's like, oh, don't lie to me. Why are you saying this? But yeah, because it was bad. Because when you get your 2 days off, and like, you know, at first we didn't really get our 2 days off, but down the line, when we do get our 2 days off, the first day you're like a zombie. You're like, you have literally nothing left in the tank. You know, 3 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep for a year, it does affect your brain.
It's like having a baby.
Yeah,
you just don't get it, and then like your brain is not the same anymore.
Yeah, but you know, like with that, you go like, 6 months and they're all right.
But you got a bad sleeper. 3 years might be okay.
So we kind of get, I feel for you there. I literally know exactly how you'll feel.
I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and we're out of it now, but whew.
Job done, mate, job done.
But it is, and it's challenging because you miss weddings, you miss funerals, you miss friends, and you would be mental to do it really if you didn't really want to do it. Because there's a million ways of making money easier. And it affects your friendships with people, and you can't go to their weddings, and you can't go to funerals, and you can't go to all the other bits and bobs. Yeah, Christmas doesn't really exist.
Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day.
Do you have any regrets then? Of like stuff that you've missed?
Only stuff with my kids, and so that was the early doors of Innisea, and then afterwards Gaz saw that actually this is not going to work with life, with people. So basically what he did, after we'd been there for a couple of years, we started gathering a bit of momentum. We closed for 2 days a week, and it became a 5-day operation, which was way easier for everybody. And then eventually we closed for 3 days, so that we were all having like a 3-day weekend. So you'd start, you'd have to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be there till 3:30, but that was only for 4 days. So the 100-hour weeks stopped, and like you then became more into it, and it was class because he, you know, that was a massive thing for him to have done. But I think he knew at the time, like, we can't sustain the team.
It's not sustainable, is it?
It's too much. That's
the best out of you, isn't it?
And there's the staff that when we were doing that, like when we were in the early doors, and like you look at the team that were around us then, and all of them have gone on to do ace things. Everybody was super committed, and we didn't care. Like, we weren't forced to do those big hours. You know, we did them because we did them together. We did them because we all believed in the project, and that's like, it's very, and that's almost something that happens with an untouched restaurant and an unfound restaurant. And then what happens is James Martin comes for dinner and the whole place fucking explodes.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. So, before that, I mean, to give you an idea of how quiet it was sometimes, like I was the sous chef there at the time. The groundman was laid off because we couldn't really afford to have a groundman.
Mm-hmm.
We still needed the grounds maintained, so the chefs used to go out there and rake the leaves, and we'd cut the grass, do whatever else.
Yeah.
And then I did my chainsaw qualification so that I could maintain the grounds with the trees and stuff, and cut firewood for the rooms and all that sort of stuff, which was really good because it actually turned out to be something that I did as a job for a bit as well, at the same time as cooking. So I kind of loved it. It was ace. Then it kind of exploded, and then I was there for a couple of years after it exploded, and then I was just kind of thinking, right, okay, I've been here for 4 years. I didn't know how long I was going to be here for. When we went back, I was like, I'll let me do 6 months, that famous 6 months phrase, and then we'll see where we are. See if I want to cook. If not, I'll find something else to do. I ended up being there for 4 years, or just under, whatever it was, and then made the decision to leave and to open up SY23, and that's kind of where we are now.
Yeah.
Or 4 years down the line from that, but yeah, that was a really emotional restaurant to leave. Actually, that was it was a massive, massive part of my life.
Yeah.
And at a really important time as well.
Yeah, because I'd had a lot of bits and bobs, and I always think about it as like my finishing school. So like, it's a good place to like go and say, okay, cool, like you've learned everything you've learned, right? Go there, that'll finish off. That was what I got from that. So, I felt like I'd learnt to cook fish quite well. I'd learnt this classical restaurant where I did all my pastry work, and like I was a pastry chef there for a couple of years. I'd kind of done the private thing, so I'd learnt about the ambience of the room and how to set it up, how to make people feel comfortable. I'd had the discipline really from like the London jobs, and then going to work with Gaz was just like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to teach you, one, how to do that whole aged meat thing that nobody else does, but secondly, how to open up your mind and how to actually question everything you've been taught until now, which was really quite important. And also got the chance, because of the timing that I was there, to take what was a country house hotel, which was really stuffy and very clinical and like very starchy, and turn it into a restaurant that was really cool, very Vogue, very kind of like GQ. Everybody wanted a piece of it. And I was there, and I like to think, quite a big part in helping Gareth and Amelia to kind of take it from there to there. So when I came to open up SY23, I kind of knew exactly what I wanted, because I'd built a restaurant with somebody else before.
Yeah, your vision was...
And I kind of knew exactly what I wanted to be in. I knew that I wanted an open kitchen. I knew that I wanted the sort of vibe of the room to be quite cool. And
did you have an amount of covers in mind as well? Did you have like...
Not really, no.
Did that just go with the space of the room?
Yeah, that was the space that dictated that one. Yeah.
Why did you choose Aberystwyth then? Was it Aberystwyth definitely where you wanted to have your restaurant? Was that always the goal?
It was a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be here for my kids. I wanted them to have the lifestyle that I had when I was growing up. So I wanted them to go shooting, fishing. The good thing about us here is like we can be up in the woods, and then in 2 miles you can be down the beach.
Yeah.
And it's quite a unique setting, that, because like everywhere else it doesn't really happen that well. Like you can be in rural Wales, Bilth Wells, amazing, up in the mountains, class. That's all you've got.
Yeah.
Here you've got a bit of everything.
Yeah.
We always say that. I think a lot of guests we have on the podcast, we all say that, how lucky we are right here.
Yeah.
It's
when you set it up, the pandemic hit pretty quick, didn't it?
Yeah, I think we're 6 weeks in. 6 weeks into opening, and then we're like, oh, something's going over in Italy. What's this? And then I was like, oh, shit, this is coming. So we closed 6 weeks after we opened.
That must be so frustrating.
Yeah.
It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a story here.
Yeah, there's a financial headache that will last forever, and the person that I'm in business with, who kind of funded the project, opened the restaurant, it was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to him. But actually, by this point, I'm burnt out. Like we get to here. I've just left a restaurant where I'd been absolutely at it to open up another restaurant, and I think it was less than 6 weeks from leaving one to opening another. And when I went into this project, it was, the ceiling didn't exist. It was exposed beam. There was no floor. you know, we in 6 weeks built something that was, you know, still getting steelwork in
Bloody
place
hell.
to actually opening it. And it was really brutal. That was really hard, that period of time.
And if COVID hadn't hit, you would have been... that brutality would have carried on because you'd have had to make your name for yourself in a new restaurant.
Yeah, so I stopped. We get COVID. We get basically told by our mate Boris that we're going home, and then there's no end. There's nothing to look forward to. There's no like end date.
No, It wasn't like, oh, we're going to open in August.
Yeah.
We can go back to work, sort of thing.
So basically, I go back home and I'm like, right, what are we going to do? So within a couple of days, I'm like, right, I'll start making barbecues. So I had a workshop, basically a single car garage next to the house, and turned that into people were asking me about barbecues, about what I cook on in the restaurant.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, I can weld. I'll make them. So I'd made my barbecue.
How come you can weld?
Yeah, when did that happen?
Yeah,
that was another one of my questions I was asking about.
When I was a kid,
Is there anything you can't do?
Yeah, loads. But I'm okay at the stuff I can do, so
Cool,
I guess me why. When I was younger, my dad used to have a little garage, and he'd restore classic cars. And my nan was actually a welder. So my great grandmother, she welded. She in Ford houses in Wolverhampton. She used to build fuel tanks for Spitfires during the war.
I was just about to say that sounds unusual, but then immediately I thought of the war, as in the women had to look after the country while men are away. So yeah,
and I think it's something that, like, growing up, she'd tell us stories, and to be honest with you, I wish I'd listened. Well, like everything, you were kind of like wish you'd listen more.
Everyone,
and
so
you're
true.
Like, your nan would be like, yeah, I used to weld fuel tanks, because if you weld fuel tanks, you had to be the best welder. And so she'd have great pride in telling us that, and at the time I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. And then now I'm like, fuck, there's a million questions I'd like to ask her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're like, so tell me
how many Spitfires?
Yeah. So, and it was really weird because I kind of got into doing this. So basically, I knew a little bit about welding, and then over COVID, kind of taught myself a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and then the projects kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I basically set up a barbecue manufacturing business out of my garage, and I still make a few now, but they just kept money coming in and kind of kept me ticking over, and it was involved in cooking, but it wasn't involved in cooking, so that was really good. And then, like, I think during COVID, my mum was clearing something out of her house, and then nobody's ever seen this photo before, but this photo surfaced of my nan welding in this factory, and I'm like, what? Like, another one of those things you're like, it's supposed to be
meant to be sort of thing, you know.
So now that's like in my workshop. I have it in the toolbox, and it's just cool, really. Like, it's just
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing.
So that's how I weld, and I think, you know, kind of a little bit of that may have filtered through the blood, but so back to it being the best thing that ever happened, really, is I got to spend time with the kids and the family, and like, it's time that I'd never ever spent. And I just had a little one, Kai, my youngest, and he was like a year old, if that, and he didn't really like me. Like, we struggled because I was so 100% for that year, and I honestly, like, I was like, he doesn't like me. Like, my eldest, we've always been really super tight, but that first year I just really struggled with Kai, and I kind of, like, I thought, like, he hates me because all I do is work. He gets nothing from me. His mom's amazing. His mom is not only feeding him, she's taking care of him, she's doing this, that, and the other. So I didn't really have the first 2 years that I'd given up in a sear for Bo. I didn't really have that with Kai. And then COVID came, and then, like, within a couple of weeks we were inseparable, and, like, it was kind of like I got to know him, I got to know Bo more as well, and got to know my wife more. We never spent this much time together ever, and I loved it. And I know it's really bad to say, but because there's people in high rises in London and you know, city centres that could only go out for an hour, and I know that's really bad.
Not at all.
No, I had a similar
But
experience.
for me,
I had a kid who was born in March and on lockdown, and I had 12 weeks off that I never would have had. And they were like amazing special 12 weeks for my youngest daughter, and my missus was home and our other eldest kid. And like for me, it was amazing, but I understand people have got like horrible experiences of it.
Yeah.
Everyone had a different
Everyone's
experience.
different.
Yeah.
Everyone had a
for
different
sure.
experience. You know, can't help it.
Yeah.
But
I look at it, I'm like, the second one was probably the worst experience. But like the second lockdown was horrendous. But the first one, I'm like, yeah, I needed this.
Yeah.
I needed this. Otherwise, what I was going to do was quit.
Yeah,
And that was, a point where, and during lockdown, when I'm umming and ahhing at this point, like, do I go back to work or do I keep doing something else? Like, this is kind of another one of those points you get to, and I'm like, I'd almost, the first was like getting over a hangover, and you kind of a bit like, oh my God. And then you almost giving up an addiction because you're like, right, what am I doing? Because I couldn't sleep. Like, during lockdown the first time, I really struggled to go to sleep and things, and then as we slowed down, I was going to sleep earlier and waking up earlier and just enjoying the day. Like we were months into lockdown and I'd be awake at 1 o'clock in the morning, just like, what am I doing awake?
that's your body, though,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Your body's so used to that.
Yeah. And I really,
time.
Yeah.
So I kind of like struggled and winding, but then when I did unwind, I was like, can I coil back up? Can I get back up to that
That
level that I want to be?
Yeah.
So I was really, really, really close to saying I'm not doing it. I'm going to walk away from it. I'm going to go and do something else. And that wasn't just that restaurant. That was cooking. Like, I was so close to being over. And then literally a couple of days, like, so I'd even had the chat with Holly. And I'm like, what do we do? Do I do this? She's like, just take a second to think. And then somebody who's become a really close friend now that worked on Great British Menu contacted me through Instagram. And I'm in the workshop welding barbecues. And I get this Instagram message, and I'm like, she said, I work on GBM. Do you want to have a chat? And I'm like, fuck off. Thought this was a wind-up. This is a classic wind-up.
You've been punked.
So I'm like, showed Holly, and I said, like, do you think this is legit or what? She's like, well, message him back. You've got nothing to lose. And then the story unravels then, and that's when it kind of became... we went to GBM and changed our life a little bit. That did.
That did. Big exposure then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. A really different experience. It was good. I loved it.
Because you were the Welsh Heat, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
I love that show. I really do love that show. How was it? Because I've watched it for like a number of years, but like,
how real?
What was it? Yeah, what was it like?
It's quite real
in it.
Yeah.
Because I asked a previous guest about what he thinks that SAS program's like, and he was a Marine, and that I don't know.
And he's like 1%.
It's absolute bullshit.
Exactly. You're like, crush my dreams. I love that. But obviously, you're a top chef, and you've been in there. What's it like? As in,
It's exactly like it seems, really.
Amazing.
There's a few bits and bobs that they leave out for obvious reasons, like
Swearing.
they leave that out. I mean, there's a few heated moments, but like not really during the cooking. And I'd say it's pretty accurate, actually. When you go on there, the rules are quite strict with what you do. So your approach to do it first and foremost. So you haven't got just anybody rocking up to do it.
No,
I'm
sure. So
the chefs have obviously been vetted before, so they know if they're going to be any good. And it works. The criteria is quite strict, so it's very formal, and that's what we want from you. That's your time slot. That's when you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So you kind of like hanging around all day, and then you go, right, okay, in there, go. And you're like, whoa. So you're chilling during a service. If someone says, "Oh, I need this now," you're already in the motion. You're already, it's like jogging. It's like jogging and then going, "I'm going to sprint to that lamppost," and you're already in motion. It's easy to, but it's like this, chilling out with a brew and then going, right, jump in the kitchen, knock me up a main course in an hour and a half. You're like,
switch on.
But you've also you've got to be ready for it. Like,
did they give you an idea of what dishes to create, or did you just
no? They just give you a brief.
Yeah, brief, isn't it? On what you're cooking for and stuff.
Follow this brief, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you only have 2 weeks where you have to submit your menu. So basically, they'll give you a brief, and today they could say like, okay, cool, we're going to do on performing arts. We want your menu in 2 weeks, and then maybe 8 chefs will send the menu in. So they'll have contacted 8 people. you've got 2 weeks to submit your menu, and then that's it locked off, and then that's the menu you're cooking. And then you've got maybe a few more weeks to get everything ready before you get going. Because everybody looks at it and thinks you get like 6 months. You don't. You get 2 weeks to put your menu together, and then you've got a few weeks afterwards to get your stuff together.
2 weeks is nothing.
And in this part of the world, trying to get props for something, like trying to get something made,
It's impossible.
It's really hard.
Especially around here in Aberystwyth. You can't really get anything done sometimes if you're trying to move forward with
sometimes,
the project.
Yeah, well, you kind of, being in the trades, although it's like an island life sometimes. People are like, it's like, hey, we'll do that tomorrow.
Manana all the time.
It's a Fiji time. It's a little bit like Fiji. They're like, it's Fiji time. When's that? Yeah, who knows? No one knows.
It's Friday, 3 o'clock.
When's the next Olympics? Yeah. We'll get it done now.
Monday.
Yeah. So that was ace. That was a life changer. It was not just a life changer because of the stuff that happened when we, the first year that I did it, we did okay. We did quite well, and then the second year we won the Welsh Heat, and then we went on to win the starter course, so we went into the banquet. Yeah. That was really good. But it's also the exposure to like the restaurant side of the filming side of things, the production side of things. Like before that, if somebody's doing a film, they'll come to the restaurant, they'll bring a little camera, and they'll bomb around a bit. Oh, there you go, see you later. They'll disappear, you'll get a video back. Dead easy.
Yeah.
Whereas actually you go, well, this is a really big production. This is something that 5 or 6 million people are going to watch.
Yeah.
So there's lots of cameras, lots of lights, lots of audio technicians, and I loved that. And I'm like, this is cool.
Were you getting directed at all?
No.
Or they were just like, leave you to it.
No.
I'm just filming you.
This is great tips. I do love that show.
What they'll do is
they'll great. Yeah.
So like to start the ball rolling, they were like, okay, right, you start us off. Just ask the guys if they're excited about the dish, because they've got to have a start point, and then literally that's it. That's all. That's
just
your start
get the ball
point.
rolling. Just get it going.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you go on there, everyone knows that they're building a TV show, so you've got to play the game as well. Like, not that there's a game to play, but I mean, like, you've got to. There's no yes or no questions aren't useful for anybody, and the more useful you are to the people that you're working with, the easier it is, and everybody gets a better result. So, if you know that they want you to talk a little bit about your ingredients, then talk about your ingredients. You don't. There's no lying. There's no falseness to it. There's no. The only scene that's staged and a bit shit is that one where you have a cup of tea outside. So
right, in that
should we go and see how the other chefs get on? Like, why don't they just get rid of that scene?
Is it true as well? Like, often I'll watch it, and then the other chefs, like, it seems like you're under some bad time constraints, and they're like, right, come and bring it to the pass or whatever. And then the people you're sort of against, they'll help you play it up a little bit.
Yeah,
is that true?
Yeah,
that's cool. They're kind of helping each other.
The thing is, as well, it's you're competing against like some of the best chefs in the country as well, and nobody wants to. It's like when you go and play high-end sports. Nobody wants to lose on a disqualification.
No.
You want to beat somebody on their merits, and you want to beat them on yours, and you want to go like, actually, you know what? We all put a lot of effort into that, and that guy is in the same boat as me, and if that was me, I'd like someone to help me.
Yeah.
So there's loads of camaraderie. Behind the scenes, even more.
Yeah,
and it's really good banter. There's loads of piss taking. It's really good. And a lot of the guys that I was doing the show with, we're all still in contact, really.
Did you know them before filming?
Some of them. I'd built barbecues for a couple of them.
Really? I remember you.
The welder's on.
What are you doing?
Just bring the barbecues in.
Yeah, and a couple of them from Innisir when people used to come there.
Okay.
So kind of knew a few of them. And the good thing is with Innisir as well is that you'd have, when you've met like James Martin and you've had Grace Dent in the restaurant and you've had like all of these big chefs come into the restaurant and you've had to serve them and talk to them, it kind of breaks down the thing. Is you're like, actually, you know what? Like, James is fucking lovely. He's a really nice guy. He's very down to earth. You have a really good chat with him. He's straight as an arrow. Like, you're like, oh, no, why was I nervous about meeting somebody? It's the same as when you go to an event and like Gordon Ramsay's there and you talk to him and he's a normal person.
Yeah.
There's no like, so it's been really good because then you don't get starstruck when you meet someone because you realise that actually they're just another person that actually wants you as you, not as like a fangirl. Because when like when people come over in the restaurant and they're like, oh God, we chuffed you here, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't I be here? A lot of chefs aren't there, and I'm like, well, I am. Like, and they kind of want you to sign a book for them or whatever it is, and that's lovely and nice, and but I think some people sometimes a bit in a work environment, like, you're there to be approached. Not sure. I don't really like it when I'm out, to be honest. That's not very nice. Like, you're trying to launch a boat and you're having a bit of a fucking nightmare getting off the trailer, and somebody comes over and talks to you like, any time but now, really.
Unless you're gonna put the boat in with me and help me.
I've got some lamb.
Oh, that happened to me at football the other day. Yeah, I was watching my boy. I'm like screaming at him, and then someone goes, "I'm cooking a leg of lamb." I'm like, right. I'm like watching the game. I'm like, right. But
it happens, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah. And never thought in a million years it would. Like, that's not something you kind of ever think about at all. Like, the last couple of years I've written a book, starting the next book. I'm won a Michelin Star in Aberystwyth. Like,
that's nuts.
Yeah.
We're obviously going to get onto that. I want to know everything about that.
Yeah,
really.
definitely.
Is in like, how did that? I don't even know the process, but how did you know that you were potentially up for one? I don't know how it all works.
No, you don't.
You don't know.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't know at all.
So, I was thinking about this earlier on. Do they come into the restaurant? What's the process? Do they come in and they like undercover, or how does it work? What is it?
I don't know anything about it.
Espionage.
Like mystery shoppers type thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, in a sense. I mean, obviously we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know the answers to most of these questions because they don't give a lot of information away. I mean, they've done very few interviews that they've done. They'll say like, oh, the norm really is that you'll be inspected a few times throughout the year. So I think it might have been a few years ago that they did an interview and they said like you'll get 3 visits, but that's not like a single person there with their suit on a midweek lunch, like
with a Michelin badge.
I will have the chicken.
I had it last time.
Hey, the Michelin badge.
And I think there's a couple of films because we always get asked about it. They were like, "There's a film." I can't think of the name of the film, but the guy's like, I think the guy in the film was like, "Oh yeah, they'll drop cutlery and they'll check the loo and they'll." I'm like, I don't. And so everybody comes and they're like, "Is it like that film where they drop the cutlery to see if you notice?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
They were ghosts.
Yeah,
they just came in,
if you drop your cutlery,
served them
but yeah. So apparently we'll get a few visits a year. We don't know anything about it. We never get any feedback. There's never like the only time we'll ever know if anybody's been is they'll tweet about it.
Oh,
right.
So they'll tweet or they'll put something on their app.
Is that Michelin? Sorry.
Yeah.
So there's a little hint there, basically, that they've been to the area.
Yeah,
You're on their radar, sort of.
Yeah. So a couple of months ago, we had somebody text, and it's always somebody that texts and say like, "You're on the Michelin app," or because if you wake up in the morning and you check Michelin to see if they've been to your restaurant, or if you check the booking system, and I know a lot of chefs do, they'll check the booking system, see if they recognise any names and numbers, and whatever else. If you're doing that, fucking just stop, because it's good for no one.
Obsession.
Because if you're gonna turn it on for one day, for one person that you suspect, maybe a Michelin inspector, then you're not doing the rest of the guests that come the other 5 days a week any justice. So I don't get the whole thing. I don't know why people do it. Do your best every fucking day, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And if you're not good enough, or not good enough's not the right word. If they don't want to award you their award, which we don't know what the criteria is, so if they don't give it to you, then that's
it's fine, isn't
that's
it?
fine. It's not,
You've still got a full restaurant every night.
if you've
and
got a full
everybody's
restaurant,
happy.
you've got a full restaurant. I mean, don't get me wrong. For most chefs, it is like winning the Oscars. It's the pinnacle of gastronomy. It's the pinnacle of what you want from. It's a great thing to be like, your last 15 years were worth it. That's what it is. And it's ace. It is really, really good. But we never, ever set out... The goal was never to win a Michelin Star. The goal was, I've worked in a Michelin Star restaurant, I loved it. SY23 is going to be a bit more chilled out. For me, so I get more home life. Hasn't really worked out that way, but that was the goal. It's just another 6 months. We just wanted to cook dead tasty food, and we wanted it to be basically like a good local restaurant. That was kind of the ambition. And then I think that you can't forget what you've learned.
No.
You know, if you're in any other trade and you go, okay, cool, I'm gonna go, I'll make windows, I'm a joiner, and then somebody asks you to do something else, you're going to put the same amount of care into it because you've learnt it. You've spent 15 years learning your craft.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that, you know what, whatever he does, if he goes and makes dolls' houses, they're still going to be amazing because he's still going to put that skill into it. And that's kind of what happened here. Like, we went from a really good restaurant, we opened our restaurant, and then we didn't do anything different. We didn't do anything to encourage a star, or we didn't do anything because we thought that would be really well received. We just did us. And then in our first full year of opening, we got a star, which, you know, we got a star, and we got the best new opening for Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which was quite good because when they give us the awards, so they turn up at the restaurant, and I was on the way back from filming Great British Menu, the banquet, and we're in this little vented van, and we're like fucking bombing down the motorway, and somebody phones Holly's phone and said they work for a media company that work with Michelin. We'd just been released as a new addition to the guide, which I thought, you know, it's basically like them saying, like, it's good, but being in the guide and having a star in the guide are two different things.
Okay.
So being in the guide is just like, they're saying, oh, that's tasty food. So we knew they'd been because they'd put us in the guide. But then I thought, because they'd put us in the guide, there's no way we're going to win anything. The guy phones up and said, I work with a media company from Michelin. I'd love to come and see and have a chat with you about your sustainability, and also to see if being in the guide has affected you. Being Wales, there's not many restaurants in the guide. So I was like,
What's all this?
This sounds tasty. So that was, you know, like 9 o'clock at night, and then in the morning, they met us at the restaurant at 8 o'clock. So I was there about 5:30, just walking around, like absolutely no reason to be there whatsoever.
How did you sleep that night?
Not well, I don't think.
No.
So get there, they come through the door. Coolest guys ever, ace production team. They're like, right, can we just sign some NDAs? So we signed like a non-disclosure order, and it's just so that you don't talk about us being here because it's going to cause blah 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 blah. And you're like, yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. And then they gave us like a little brief, like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. And they were like, this is going to be really good for your restaurant, mate, because they're going to put this on Twitter or something, and people will know who you are. And I'm like, okay, cool. And by this point, I'm thinking, I'm not sure we've got a star here. Like, I think now he's explaining himself.
It's playing it down a lot as well.
So we were out there, and they said, oh, the real reason we're here is actually you've won Best New Opening for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And I was fucking gutted.
No way.
So they said, oh, you've won the best new opening for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And they were filming it, and they had these crew here, and I was like, oh, cool. So, well done, chefs. Like, well done, guys. And you're all mic'd up and everything, and you've got all this kit on. And I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So I flicked my mic off, and the chefs were like, you all right, chef? And I'm like, yeah, just going to go and grab some air, lads. And I went downstairs. Holly, my wife's working outside, and I said, I'm fucking absolutely devastated. And she's like, why? I said, because we've hit the crossbar. Like, in the 91st minute Champions League final, you're in the room and you've struck the bar. You're like, we've missed. And she's like, don't be like that. And I said, what are the boys going to think? The boys are going to be gutted. Because we had the same team for 3.5 years. We went through COVID together. We opened the restaurant together. This was a couple of years ago, so we'd been together by this point for like 18 or 19 months, but we'd had a mental ride. And I was like, fuck, they're going to be gutted. I was like, I hope they don't leave, because they're going to be thinking, like, we've nearly done it. Let's go somewhere that's going to do it. And I was like, fuck, I hope they don't leave. And then Holly's like, listen, get upstairs, put your camera face on, fucking behave yourself, sort of thing. So I went upstairs, and then, she walked, so we carried on filming. We did a bit more filming. And then she walks in with this massive fucking paper. Have you seen the video?
I have.
Yeah. So she walks in with this massive, like, paper thing, and she goes, here you go. And I opened it up, and it just fucking exploded. I was just like, yeah. And the video, I get emotional thinking about it now. Like, I quite easily cry.
It's amazing.
But she, the bitch, knew all day. So
She's holding it from you.
yeah. So she'd been told when they got in the morning. They said, "Look, we're here to do this. What's your role here?" And Holly's like, "Oh, I'm the operations manager, but I'm also Nathan's wife." And they're like, "Right, come with me." So they took her into the office and they said, "We're going to tell you something. Do not tell Nathan because he's going to get this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience this experience. Work with me. We're going to give him a star." And she was like... So she then said she made up. She made up this thing where she had to go downstairs. She didn't have to go downstairs. She just couldn't look at me because she knew she'd crumble. And I think the fact that they'd given us this award and I've been like, "Fuck, we've nearly done it, but we haven't done it."
Yeah.
And then when we get it, it's like, it's just an unbelievable feeling. You kind of like, I think in the video I'm just like, fucking yes, just like. And then we've got the whole team there, and everyone's just super emotional.
Yeah.
And it was not something that I ever thought was going to happen, to be honest. And it's quite hard saying, because it's not like being the dad for the first time. It's not like getting married. It's not that. It's just a completely different experience, and you can't compare it to anything. And I've worked in restaurants that have won stars, and it's an amazing feeling. But opening a restaurant to win a star is just a different thing.
Can't imagine it. Can't imagine it at all.
It's just hard to put into words. It doesn't really... Words don't really do it justice.
It's an incredible achievement. It's very proud.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
All the hard work.
15 years.
Yeah.
Like Lionel Messi said, 15 years to be an overnight success. So that's the thing. And everybody looks at it down, they're like, "Oh, you're flying." And you're like,
No.
"Yeah." 12 years ago I wasn't.
Yeah.
Like 12 years ago I was thinking, fuck this. And then I did it again 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And I was doing barbecues.
Yeah.
I love how open you are because, I mean, you're not afraid to say that you're ready to quit at times as well. I guess loads of chefs go through that.
Yeah.
They must
Because
do.
the burnout, you know, the time, like the sacrifices you've had to make. Every chef must have to do that because the hospitality industry and the chefing industry must be just brutal. The time.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's not a good thing, but there's positives to come out of actually when you get that low and you're thinking about giving up on something you've committed 10 years to.
Yeah.
And like I say, you've missed weddings, funerals, friends, events. You've lost friends. You know, luckily for me, I've had Holly through it, so she's helped me along. So I've always had a backbone to actual home life. So home life has always been, whereas a lot of chefs struggle with girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it is, because the girlfriends go, "Where the fuck are you?" Or the boyfriends go, "I don't like that you're in the kitchen all night." You know.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky I haven't had that, but all the other things, you know, your mum has a 50th birthday and you can't go, you know, because you've got to do service, or you know, your dad has a party, or he's got a, you know, that sort of thing happens. And you're like, you can't go to these things because you're working for somebody else, and you go, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Just year after year.
Yeah.
Serious sacrifices have gone on.
Yeah.
In that.
But I guess
time.
worth every moment when you get that star. Would you say it is worth in every?
Yeah, but it's just it's a really different feeling now, because now I'm so much more chilled out. Like I'm just like.
So it's changed you in a way then.
COVID changed me. COVID chilled me out.
Yeah.
Winning the star chilled me out a bit more. I'm definitely the one in the kitchen that will take the piss out of everybody the most. Like practical jokes. Like, I really welcome that in the kitchen. Whereas a lot of chefs, and especially like if they're in a Michelin Star kitchen, they're very, very strict. And it's, you know, that's not us at all. In the restaurant, we have a fucking right laugh. And
That's really cool.
Good for morale.
yeah.
Or I think
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
working
And we're
in
all
a
very
place like that.
professional. Like everybody knows. I've got Cuba who's the head chef, kind of my right hand man in the kitchen. We take what we do very, very seriously. We're very, very particular on almost everything. But actually, I think to enjoy that, you've got to have a bit of a laugh and like, you know, stuff like, it's just the silly stuff. Like I brought an air horn. Just because we had a girl that worked in Tanif, she's fucking absolutely amazing. She just left us after 3.5 years to go and make some wine in Spain. So she was class, but she was jumpy. Fuck, she used to jump. She was scared of her own, she was so scared of her own shadow. So we brought an air horn. To the point where she was almost having panic attacks. We were like, well, stop now.
Too far.
Yeah.
Too far.
And a fella that worked with us, Charlie, was amazing as well. He used to do like fucking prank Fridays, and he'd kind of gone like, "Chef, is it all right if I just prank Tanif on a Friday? Like, help yourself." So guests would leave, everything's cool, and then all of a sudden she turns around, she gets a fucking pie in the face, and like there's bits of pie everywhere, and in a normal kitchen somebody had hit the roof, but everybody cleans it up together.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the summer, a few weeks ago, it was a nice hot day. We got our stuff ready to go early. We went down to the beach, had a swim, brought some stuff from the deli, made a couple of sandwiches,
Nice.
and had a nice chill. It can't be all work. If it's all work, there's something going to go wrong.
I bet it's very unique, especially for a Michelin star restaurant, isn't it?
Yeah, but we don't think about being a Michelin star restaurant. We think about being a restaurant that takes care of people, and then
Nice.
I think the rest of it. I'm so proud that we're a Michelin starred restaurant, but it's not something that I think about every day.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think about it much, really. And I probably didn't think about it too much before we got it, but all I think about now is like, I like to think that when people come, that we get care taken of them, and from the minute they step into us to the minute they leave, they've got people around them that want to take care of them. And when we're looking for staff, I don't give a fuck what they like at cooking, or what they're like as a waitress or as a waiter or as a bartender. Phil, who's our bartender, he's been with us for 3.5 years, 3.5 years, because he came just after COVID and we're nearly 4 years old. He'd never worked in a bar. He joined us as a KP and then said, I've always really wanted to be a bartender. That's the guy you want as your bartender.
Yeah.
Not the guy that's done every single qualification under the sun and has got a fucking arrogant way to him because he's the barman or the mixologist or the the freak in the bar. Whereas what we've got is a barman that loves what he does. He's very, very good at what he does because he wanted to do it. It's not something that he kind of thought, oh, you know what, I'll do this because this will be all right. He actually came to us as a KP, wanted to do the bar. He's amazing at the bar. He takes care of people, and we've developed with him and helped him to develop, and he'll go on and do some amazing stuff at somewhere else.
Nice.
But the important thing is that we take people on that want to do the job, not that can do the job.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
like Tan, who run the restaurant for us, we want to start. So with Phil, with Tan, with Charlie, we took 2 students from the university, and Cuba, and then Queen Vic. So Queen Vic had never worked in a restaurant before. She started as our KP, but she was fucking unbelievable, and she knew the business inside out. Again, she was with us for 3.5 years. She's just left to go to Bath, so good luck, Queen Vic. So she loved everything about the restaurant. She was amazing with the people, but again, her first job. Me and Cuba had worked in the restaurant business for a long time. Charlie was quite new to the restaurant game. He'd worked in some places, but really it was his first proper, intense job. So he was quite new. Tanith hadn't worked in a restaurant before. She was a restaurant manager when we won a star. And then we had 2 students that hadn't really worked in the restaurant, and we won a Michelin star. But it wasn't because that these guys had the best education in their field in like all the top restaurants in London or done whatever else. And these guys just wanted to take care of people and wanted to make it tasty and lovely. And we don't have cleaners in the restaurant. The big thing of mine when we started, we do not have cleaners. Every member of staff cleans the restaurant.
Amazing.
So we have full ownership of the building, which means that for me that. When they all started, I don't really do it so much anymore because I don't really have to because the DNA has already been spread across the restaurant a little bit. But every new member of staff, I would show them how to clean the toilet.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with cleaning the toilet. It would show them that actually I will clean the toilet. So we'd have like 4 people watching me in the early days. It was a pain in the arse because you'd be like, right, this is how I want you to clean the loo. And you'd clean the loo, you'd be like underneath the bowl, you'd be on your hands and knees, you'd give it a good scrub. You're like, right then, just wipe it down. Right, that loo's clean. That's how I want it. And then everybody would clean the loo, and then you'd say, okay, look, you've missed this bit. And then the toilets are cleaned immaculately. I don't know a cleaner in the land that will clean the toilets better than somebody that's going to do it the next day. So we kind of do that. We kind of take care of everything like that. So
you lead them by example, basically, don't you?
Yeah. And now after a few years, now the restaurant manager will take care of that. So Molly will take care of that, and she'll show them how to clean a loo. And it's just a good thing. It's like a grounding of like, bang, cool.
Amazing.
I think you learn a lot as well, because then if someone thinks they're above doing that, maybe that's not the job for them.
Yeah, because
Do you know what I mean?
sometimes when we're short-handed
gotta be
out front
done.
or whatever else, you go like, cool. And what the chefs will do, like Charlie always used to do it, and then when he was with us, if we were a bit short-handed out front, Charlie would do service out front, so he'd run the floor or whatever. But then at the end of service, he's like, right, let's do the loo. So the chefs would clean the loos, while the girls would get in front, the bar sorted or whatever, because they're under pressure, and the later they leave,
Yeah.
the more fucked they're going to be the next day. So,
Yeah.
everybody can dive in then, because everybody's been shown how to do it.
Even though you've got the hierarchy there, excuse me, it's good to show that all the levels are doing what you might call the lowest of jobs, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
leading by
The
example.
team.
It's great, you know.
It's like you had that guy in from the Marines, and he was saying about like showing you how to shower.
Yeah.
When I listened to that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's exactly the same. So
Yeah, you've been shown, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it now.
So totally related to this, are you able to walk us through? So you got service tonight. Walk us through that day. What happens from the moment you wake up until?
So if we take Wednesday's first day of the week for us. So
Sure.
Wednesday, get up in the morning, see the kids off to school, whatever else. Quite a leisurely start for us. So I'll leave the house at say 8:30, get to work for 9. Once we've found somewhere to park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
shout out town council. And then so 9 o'clock, everyone's in, or kitchen team will arrive at 9, and then we'll have a quick meeting about what we're going to do, any dietary requirements we've got for the rest of the week. So we're kind of already assessing that.
Yeah.
We'll have a sheet presented to us from the week before. So luckily for us, our bookings are quite full for a few weeks to come. So
the information is
the
consistent.
information's ready.
Yeah, nice.
We'll have all dietary requirements. We'll have numbers. So we come in and say full house for us is 20 guests, but we can also be full at 14. So because we allow the tables to be booked as a 2 or as a 4 or however it works. So best case scenario it's 20. It's still best case scenario because it's full, but it's 14. So we're between them numbers normally. We'll come in. We'll have a quick chat, and then because of the way that we work the system, which is quite strange to a lot of kitchens. So a lot of kitchens will break up into their sections, and one will take care of like desserts, one will take care of starters, or whatever, and one will take care of like the main course, if you like. We don't do that in the kitchen. So what we do is we all have one list that's printed. So we update it daily, and then one of the chefs will go upstairs, will print it, we stick it down onto a unit, and then you just literally tick the box. So if you take onto that job, so literally when you come to the list, you take the next job. So that doesn't mean like for me as I don't really have a title there, to be honest. I'm just Nath. But so like I'll go to the list and I'll like pick mint. So then I'll go, right, okay, cool, I'll go and get the mint, and I'll start picking the mint leaves, which would normally be like a commie's job, which commie would be like the apprentice, really.
Yeah.
And then Cuba might come in and go like, okay, cool, I'm about to start that job, but then the lamb turns up. So he'll jump on the lamb because our kitchen's very, very small, so you have to prepare it before you can put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
So he'll start butchering. Then the next chef will come along and I'm like, so basically we work on everybody can do every single job.
Wow, that's cool.
Which is good because if one person's not there for whatever reason,
So I was thinking if someone's sick,
Yeah.
it'd be awful if you couldn't have a dessert if someone's sick. Or
Yeah, it's
whatever.
great. It's great. You can trust your brigade with that. Like that's fantastic.
and that's kind of something that I've learnt really with SY23. You know, there's not really any other restaurants that do that that I've worked in. But I just found that it was the best way. And then what happens is you keep the chefs entertained because actually, in most kitchens, the head chefs and the senior chefs would take care of the most premium ingredients.
Yeah.
And then which is what I had in London, which was why it used to frustrate me a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the fillet, but you can't get to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, like me and Cuba will kind of go through what's going on. Max will start working, and then we'll just literally work for the list and Sharpie straight through it. Once you've done it, you tick it once you start it. Once we've done everything there, we get set up. We'll have a staff meal, so we have a family meal that we cook. We aim for between 5 and 5:30.
Nice.
So then all of the guests arrive at 6:30 at the restaurant. So we have a meal just before service where we'll sit down. Anything that we need to discuss, we'll discuss. we've got Phil on the coffee, so like the bar will take care of drinks.
Yeah.
Front of house will lay the table upstairs. We'll get the food ready. We all sit down together, and one of us will take it in turns cooking. So like, you know, we do this thing as well where the front of house cook for us a day a week.
Nice.
So what will happen normally is the guys on a Wednesday start slightly later, so they'll start like 12 o'clock. But one of them will bring something with them, so they've made like a stew or whatever, or like a chili or something class, and it's you know, everyone's got fingers crossed for Molly's lasagna type thing. So
nice.
yeah, so they'll bring it in, and then it eases the pressure on us on a Wednesday. It also gives us a day of like actually they appreciate what we do for the other 4 days because they
of course.
they do it for us for a day. So we have a family meal at 5:30. Then we have a good clean of the kitchen. Everything's mirror polished. Everything's good to go. We set up everything that we've been preparing that day in these containers, and the containers, you know, we've got them labelled with like little proper labels. Everything must be in its place.
Clear, concise, ready to go.
Everything's exactly where it should be. And then 6:30 we welcome guests. They'll go into the bar, and then we'll constantly be getting feedback. We've got a little whiteboard stuck to the fridge, and basically what that'll have on it is any information that we're gathering from downstairs. So table 1, for example, if there's a lady that's struggling with mobility,
Sure.
or a gent struggling with mobility, they'll put them there because if they need to go to the loo, there's the closest door, there's the closest table to there.
There's that element of care again.
You know, or anything else like, you know, by this point we already know about any allergies. We already know about dietary requirements.
Set,
We've already discussed that because we'll phone them the day before, just to remind. It's not much. It's a courtesy call really, but you know, we'll just give them a call and say, look, you know, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Just a final check. Have you got everything you need? Can we help with anything? Also, like, has anything changed dietary requirement wise? Every now and again you'll get someone to say like, oh, I'm actually a pescatarian. Pescatarians we can do, but we almost do no dietaries. Yeah. So you get the full experience of what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
7:30 guests come up to the restaurant, and then we start. And then once we start, we can't stop because we see everybody all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody, all 20 covers or 14 covers, they'll
all eat at the same time.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And then what that allows us to do is like set the restaurant so that we play a playlist in the restaurant and we start it at the same point. So then actually the music follows the meal.
Got you.
So that like actually it comes up, and then it's really important that after the main course it starts to come down a bit, so that when you leave and you're having a coffee, you're not like fucking raving your head off. You know, you're like, yeah.
The sort of crescendo is like when you're eating the main meal.
Yeah.
What sort of music is it then? I'm intrigued. I love my music.
Bit of everything, really. We're like, yeah, literally a bit of everything. Like we aim to be fit. Like when people come in to leave, if the menu's timed as it should be, and it normally is, you leave to Bittersweet Symphony. So it's kind of like a good song to leave to,
Nice.
innit? Feel like you've won. You've
Done it.
Yeah.
Walk down the main street and just hit everybody.
But yeah, we've got like
The Rocky soundtrack or anything like that.
we've got literally all. We've got like Monobo, Marabou State. We've got some like really cool electro stuff. Some bit more dancey.
Cool.
We've got a couple of covers of Johnny Cash. Yeah, all sorts
Awesome.
really.
No,
when we
no.
listen to cool tracks and we're like, oh, that would work well, we'll bang that in.
Do you think that would work well with a certain dish and stuff?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is cool.
That's
That's an
awesome.
experience.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's just so
Yeah.
different to how my
Like,
brain would
we've
work.
got there's a Pavlo track that comes on, and we just say it's Lamb Lady, like, because that's the track that we have when the lamb course goes.
Got you.
Which is mental, because you'd think you'd get bored of the soundtrack, but it's not. It's actually really good, because I'm deaf in one ear. I struggle with hearing and stuff. So I need to see things. Like, I need to see things to make sense of it a little bit, and to, I can't keep asking, like, is that table clear? Is that just if I see it, I can do it. And when I'm talking to people, if I can see them, I can talk to them. But I struggle with my hearing, so that constant checking of things, and if we're on time, and if we're doing this and the other, if the music's where it should be, we're where we're supposed to be.
Amazing.
So that kind of works because we know where we're going to be. We also kind of know the atmosphere of the restaurant is where it should be at that time.
Yeah.
some people say the music's a bit too loud, but we just tell them to fuck off. Yeah, we do get people say like the music's too loud, and you're like, well, okay.
Yeah. This is the experience
Thanks
that you're
for the
coming for.
feedback.
There's the door.
I don't like the
Feedback bin.
I don't like the
Well, they're like, can you turn the music down? I'm like, well, if I turn the music down for you, then you can't hear it, so no. It's about being confident, isn't it? I think if you know what you're doing is good, or you're happy with what you're doing, you're just like, yeah, cool, there you go, guys.
You can't
Definitely.
please everybody as well. Like
I never,
sometimes you
ever
can think
try.
you
Yeah.
can't, can you? And
Yeah.
so there's no point even trying.
No.
You just want to.
No point whatsoever.
No, 0 point at all.
It's like music.
Of course it is, yeah.
yeah.
You seem so relaxed for a chef. I don't know what I had in my head, because I've briefly met you, but like, you know when you watch TV and you watch Gordon Ramsay going absolutely mental in like the kitchens, I wasn't sure what to expect, but you seem so relaxed. I can't like get my head around it. It's amazing. Like,
We're also in a different environment. Like,
of course,
you know,
I get that.
you know, that's the thing. I at work, I like things to be done as long as everything's going the right way, and it's, you know, it's not a shouty kitchen. Nobody screams in each other's faces. There's none of that nonsense.
No pans across the pass.
No, because everybody's going for the same goal. Everyone's rowing in the same direction. So, you know, and like, what's the point? You know, and also, you know, like, you'll watch highlight reels of a football match, and you're like, fuck, this is end to end. If you were there in real life, actually, you know what? The end to end stuff was 4 minutes.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what Gary and his mates are talking about on BBC.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, that's what you see when you see Gordon Ramsay. You know, he might be having his arm around somebody, explaining to them, like, this is how I want you to do this, and this is why. I want you to get good caramelisation, because this is going to develop flavour. It's going to make it look better, blah, blah, blah. And then they don't show that bit.
No.
But what they will show is when he's going, why the fuck can't you caramelise that properly? I've spoken to you about this. And then bang, it goes in the bin. So there is always an unedited version that never makes the cut. So that's the thing, really. With and it's the same in anybody's job. If you're passionate about it, you will lose your temper, because it's your reputation, it's their reputation as well, but also it's somebody's time.
Yeah.
So a guest has travelled to us. 90% of our guests will travel over 4 hours to come to us. They'll stay in a hotel. They'll need to book, if they're coming for a Saturday, they'll need to book 4 months in advance. So somebody's given you their organisation, they've given you their time, they've given you their money. Now, you can give them their money back. If they say at the end of the meal, this is fucking shit, you can give them the money back. I mean, I won't, because I know it's not shit. So it won't have left the past. But if it came to that, yeah, you can give them the money back, that's fine. You'll never, ever give somebody their time back.
No.
And if
that's it, isn't
if they've spent that time and effort to get to you, their day's invested in you. And then they're going to stay over, and then their day's invested in you to travel home the next day. That's the important bit. The money bit, that'll come and go. But you'll never get your time back.
No.
So actually, that's what we try and kind of encourage with the staff, is like, you can never repay someone for their shit evening. You can never, ever do it. So either take that on board or go and do something else, because that you can't do that. And that's kind of something after COVID where I'm realising, actually, time is so, so precious.
Yeah.
You know, it is unbelievably precious. And if you're saying, like, yeah, you can do this amazing stuff and you can do this, that and the other, that's ace. Go and do it. Because loads of our guests spend loads of time going to these amazing restaurants, and it's what fulfills them.
Yeah.
They love it. If we let them down, we've not just let them down for that meal, but like their excitement about getting to it. And we've all had that thing where you've got something big booked and you're like, it kind of keeps you going.
Yeah,
It keeps you
it
going.
does.
Like,
We talk about it breaks up winter.
Yeah.
Like you look forward to a holiday or Christmas, Halloween.
yeah, and that's the thing for us. Our guests that come to us, and I fucking hate it when people call them like customers and covers, and they're not.
It's a separation
guests.
then, isn't it?
They're guests.
Yeah.
They're people. And you'll never, ever, ever give them that back. And if I'm booking a holiday 4 months from now because I'm having a really shit time of it, actually, and I need to get out that mental space of like, you know what, I'm a bit low, a bit fucking down with work. I haven't got that much money to spend on my holiday, but I'm going to spend it on it. You know, we don't know these people. Some of them stink of money. You know what I mean? Like some of them, you know that actually
you probably
it's
know
not,
straight away when
it's
you're
not the money thing. It's not the money actually for them. It's about like a bit of fulfillment. Like they get different things from it. And some people come to you and they're like, they've saved, and it's a couple's special occasion, and you can't take that for granted. You can't take it for granted, because if you do, then you're doing the wrong things. Because like somebody's saved, and their personal circumstances, their financial circumstances might be really fucking shit. They might be going through the absolute pits, and this is what they've done to try and give themselves a lift. So when they come to you, fucking try and excel in every single way.
That's amazing.
So that you take care of them, and then they leave and they go. You know when you have a good holiday and you have like almost like holiday blues, but you're dead chuffed you went on the holiday.
Yeah.
So it keeps you going for a few more weeks. You're like,
Oh, it does.
you know, you'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's radiant.
If you have a shit holiday, you go, yeah, it was all right. It was not bad.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's it. You're back to the model. So I think it's really important to look at it like that, and like, it's just give it your best.
Amazing.
Love that.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Treating it as an incredible experience, which I'm sure it is. Do you know what I mean? And you're right, they've spent their time, their money.
Yeah.
They're excited to go. It's going to be on the calendar at home.
Yeah,
Do you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I got like, I know you got on your phone, but I've still got like the calendar with all of our names in the family, and you write the stuff that you've got going on in the physical
But you'll
calendar.
also
at home.
Love it.
Like, and I'm not saying that our ambition is to become everybody's best meal, but like everybody remembers their best meal. You know, whether that's a jam sandwich at your nan's house, or you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's special to you.
Yeah.
And like, if you can do that for one person a year, ace, cool, that'll do me. Because they're like, fucking hell, we had an amazing time. Or if they're not used to that lifestyle, they're not used to being cared for that well. Because food is only less than 50% of it's probably 30% of a restaurant experience.
Yeah.
And as a chef,
100%. 100%.
And as a chef, a lot of chefs are like, it's all about food. You can have the best food in the universe. If there's no soul in it, you're like, yeah, it was lovely, it was nice. But it's the way the restaurant makes you feel. And you know, I've been to some restaurants and I've gone like, fuck, that restaurant's amazing. I can't really tell you about the dishes. Like, there's a restaurant in France and that me and Gareth went to, in Stockholm, called France, that me and Gareth went to, and I can't really remember the food, but I remember the experience.
Yeah.
And I remember it feeling like a bit of a mental one, but I remember walking into the restaurant feeling like it was the feeling before I got married.
What?
And I know that's mental, but like, you know, that
What do you mean? Explain that.
that
As in, like,
anticipation, that
okay.
butterflies in your belly, that nervousness, that kind of like.
What is going to happen?
We're going to have an amazing experience in here, sort of thing.
I wanted it to live up to its expectations, and I'd been following it for 10 years. Me and Gareth went just as I was leaving Anasir, so it's basically like a bit of a like weekend to kind of like him say thank you.
That's
and
quite
like
cool.
us to hang out together.
Wow, nice.
That's quite cool.
And yeah, we went there, and it was just like, it was just cool.
Nice.
And I'd go back there again, and I don't care if they'd serve me fucking beans on chips. You know, it wasn't about the food. For me, it was about the way you felt. The food was obviously important, but it's not the be all and end all. So you kind of like just being taken care of, and the guys there are like really personable and like really nice, and they talk to you, and you go, "Oh, this is sick. This is cool." And there was one course where a particular Felix, like, it is a weird feeling, but it's the only thing I can explain to is like before you get married, and if anybody's being married, like. You've been with somebody for 10 years and then you're worried that they're not going to turn up on you because fucking it's a bit nuts really because you've got to go back to the same house afterwards. So you know what I mean? Like,
You're quite bad at that.
It's a weird thing, isn't it? But they presented this little course, and it was cheese on toast, but it was with like it was their bread. It was like basically like 100-year-old balsamic vinegar on it, loads of white truffle, and it's a very famous dish for them. And I looked at it and I didn't want to eat it. Because if it didn't stack up to the expectations, I'd have been so wounded. And when I ate it, I was like, no, it's good.
No, it's like, it's like,
Thank God.
Yeah,
A little bit like when don't meet your heroes, or meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Maybe if you meet someone you've been building up, and it's either going to be like, "That was a shit sandwich," or you're like, "That person's amazing."
Yeah.
yeah.
So have you got like a signature dish, or have you got like a one that you're like, that's the one? Or do you chop and change absolutely everything? Like,
no, I think we're too young as a restaurant just yet to have signature dishes.
Sure.
We've got dishes that we're quite well known for, like our fish dishes. When we did GBM, we've only ever scored 10 out of 10 for our fish dishes. So the fish dishes are our thing, really.
Yeah.
But the turbot that we cook whole, that's kind of And the Michelin tweeted about that recently when we kind of found out that they could be into the restaurant. They announced that as their dish of the month.
Okay.
So from all the restaurants that
amazing.
they've been to that month, they said that one was the best, which was quite a nice feeling.
Nice, yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of up there. We do a bit of a killer scallop, to be honest. The scallop's a bit ridiculous.
Nice.
So yeah,
man.
probably out of those two. But I think we're too young as a restaurant really to have.
Sure.
We've got our style, but I don't think we're there yet with a dish that people go, that's Nathan
you,
SY23 or that's an SY23 dish. Yeah.
Have you got a guilty pleasure food? And what I mean by that is maybe it's a little bit shit, a little bit dirty food. Right? I think like you obviously cook and you eat amazing food all the time. Do you ever crave something a bit shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's your guilty pleasure food?
Loads. I eat so much shit. It's unbelievable.
I love it.
Yeah,
What?
and so many people are like, oh yeah, you must eat like a king at home. Like, no, I'm on a chef's wage, so I eat like a normal
It's a
person.
common misconception,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I fucking love a Macca's.
Yay.
Like, you know,
Me too.
breakfast though. Breakfast is the best. But double egg McMuffin. Yeah. Orange
Sausage.
juice. Yeah, 2 hash browns.
Straight
Barbecue sauce with the hash brown.
And you know what I
Lovely.
always do as well, like, and Charlie got me onto this. Charlie and Tan used to live near this kebab. Is it Pizza Time, the one at the bottom of the hill?
Oh, bottom of the main, like Penguin Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, pizza time. Man.
Yeah.
So Charlie and Tan said to me like, "Oh, this guy who makes killer kebabs," and I'm like, "I can't see that."
Yeah, when you look through that window, it's in the kitchen.
And he's like, Charles like, "No, trust me, Nate. Like, killer kebab." So he closes at 1, which is about like I'm pushing it. But if we finish early, I'll get home for him and I'll call in sometimes and get a kebab from, and it's fucking lush.
A doner or a sheesh?
A sheesh.
A
Yeah.
sheesh.
Oh, I can't be doing any of that elephant foot stuff.
That's exactly what I call it.
Elephant, it is an
I knew,
elephant
I
foot.
knew a guy who ran a few kebab shops, and I asked him, what is in that elephant foot? He was
He went, "I don't know."
No, it's 45% lamb. I was like, what's the rest of it? Don't know.
Nobody cares.
There's a big percentage of shit in there.
Lamb flavour.
I think it's like lips, arseholes, and
Yeah.
bread.
It's not so much, yeah, that's more like a dirty trick. I mean, it's, you know, chili sauce on there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, garlic mayo. It's
Yes.
it's really good. And if
I'm
you
going to
haven't
have to
tried it,
have one now. I think
get
maybe
on
his
it.
sales going to go up a little
do
bit.
delivery all for
yeah.
now.
No,
Yeah.
he does Deliveroo because we've rung up before, and every now and again, like one of the guys, we sort of take it in turns. Apart from Max, he's a tight bastard. With treating everybody for a bit of a treat. So, like, we'll do like a Subway sandwich, and Queen Vic used to work there, so she'd always guide people through like what you need to order, and she'd have this list on her phone, and she'd go there and she used to turn up, and then as soon as the guy saw her, the till, he'd be like,
Oh, God.
like, oh no, and then he'd call someone from the back, and they'd get like, there's 8 of us, so she'd get like 8 footlongs and all the rest of it, and she'd run them back to the restaurant, and people must have been like, isn't that the Michelin Star restaurant? There's a girl running back a Subway. the one day I rung the kebabi down the road, and I'm like, I said, "Oh, we'll have kebab for staff dinner today." And he opened. I think he opens at like 5:30 or 6. So we rung him literally at 5:30 because otherwise the guests were going to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Hey mate, can we have 10 kebabs delivered to SY23?" And the guy's
In 20 minutes.
You're joking.
The guy's obviously like, yeah, funny. And he's,
Don't call you again.
That would be quite a good prank as well.
and he says, he's like, "Oh well, yeah. I'll send you a link and you can pay for it before I do them." I'm like, "Right, okay. Well, I mean, I can do that, or I can give you cash when you get it. It's up to you." And I think in his head he's like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't compute,
This
does
is
it?
coming. And he's like, is that the restaurant, the posh restaurant in town?" I'm like, "Well, it's not posh, but yeah, it is the restaurant in town." And he's like, "Right, okay, can I have your number, please? And I'll call you back." So he's like, not thinking this is true. And then, yeah, he calls me back and I answer. And I think he's a bit more relieved. And he's like, "Right, my stuff's just going to warm up and then I'll cook it for you." So this guy turns up on his moped and he's like, Sorry, they've put on here SY23. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have that. Thanks." Quick,
Get him in.
yeah.
And they know you now by name.
I drink way too many fizzy drinks and stuff, which I'm trying to stop at the moment. But that's probably the guiltiest pleasure. Fuck, I used to be a sucker for can of Coke. Like,
Coke Zero is what I'm like half addicted to at the moment, and it's not any friend to my teeth or anything. I know it's got no sugar in it, but I don't think it's good for you anyway, is it?
yeah, but what's instead of
full
sugar?
of sweetness,
It's like,
isn't it?
Oh, I think it's like
Yeah.
cancer in a can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's probably not great, is it? But
Bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Makes me go to the
Tastes so
toilet.
good though.
I don't know. It's just like
It really
oily
amazing.
Coke.
Yeah.
I
So-
love it.
Coca-Cola and a hangover.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Orange Lucozade was my. Oh my god, I lost a tooth because of that.
really,
That's the full sugar one. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Full fat orange Lucozade. Oh my god, I drink 2 liters of that
and me buzzing.
a night. A night.
Fucking run upstairs. Whoa, hey!
No, but my heart. I'm sat down playing video games and my heart's going. I'm like, I need another one.
Yeah, but like guilty pleasure food wise, like I'm just fucking it any old shit, mate. To be honest.
Good.
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you reckon? I got a few questions here, but like I'm going to go down.
He's
the
answered.
quick
He's
fire.
answered naturally loads of the ones
it's
that I
great,
had.
yeah.
I got a huge list of questions.
Yeah,
here. It's just gone. It's
90%
awesome.
of them have been smashed.
do a 12-hour podcast.
Which is great. Which is great, yeah. But no,
Phone the kebab now.
Tune in for part 7.
no, I'm ready to go for
The uncut. No, fucking hell, Frodo, get this shit over.
Titanic's only 3 hours, I think.
Oh, I
Yeah,
got
no,
it.
we'll
I
roll
got
into
it.
the quick fires if you want to. I'm
Yeah.
happy with that,
What's
Go on, mate.
what's one of your? Have you got a favourite ingredient from nature?
Birch.
I knew you were going to
Birch,
say that. So
yeah.
you tap in the trees now, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've got to try that.
Yeah, that's fucking. It's
That's
just
madness,
It's
is it?
incredible. The good thing is about it, it's one of those things like there's not that many ingredients. I think as you've been a chef for like when I first tried it, probably 10, 12 years, that literally stops you in your tracks. Because after you've been cooking for that long, you've been, if you've worked in anywhere any good, or you've moved around a little bit like I had, you've eaten something like it
Yeah.
everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
When I tried that for the first time, I was like, fucking hell, what is that?
Wow.
And it made me emotional. It was one of those things where I was like, I need a second. I don't know what it is, but I need a second. And the whole process is like the most intense thing in the universe.
What?
Because you have to. We basically tap the trees. So I take the truck into the forest. We tap the trees. So we drill a little hole in them. We insert a little pipe. We gather it in 20-litre buckets, and then you carry them down the hill. So it's basically like a really steep hill.
Mm-hmm.
Carry them down, chuck them in the back of the truck, take them back to the restaurant every single day. So we have normally about 25, 30 buckets out, and you do that every single day for 6 weeks. Ooh. And it always, always, always makes me ill. Because by the time I get to it, I'm so depleted.
Yeah.
Because you've got all the other stuff to do, plus you've got that, and you can't really go away from the house because you have to do it every day. So even on your days off, you've still got to be reducing this thing. And leading up to it, it's really exciting. And then towards the end of it, you fucking hate it because you smell of it, like your beard stinks, like reducing. And when you reduce it, it smells like jammy donuts.
Oh
so
my gosh.
It's got like a really strange smell to it, and it kind of. My truck stinks like it. My house stinks like it because I'm doing it at the house on the days off. The restaurant fucking stinks of it, and you have to clean the extraction every single day because it's fucking steam everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then you basically get to the end of it, and you're so done with it, and then you try it, and you're like, oh god, that's good, it's worth it. Yeah. So I take my kids to do that, and that's quite a cool thing because we take the kids to do it, and they like help me with the buckets and like reduce it, and you know they have it on their pancakes, which is mental.
So like sort of like a big stock pot. You've just got a constant reduction going on of birch.
Yeah, normally we do about 1,000.
Sap?
Yeah. But we'll normally do about 1,000 litres a year, and then from that we're looking if we get 10 litres of finished syrup. That's a really good year.
And what you don't have to give away any secrets or anything, but like, what does that go? What do you pair that with?
A few things we've done.
Is it more dessert wise or?
We've recently done it on like a chicken and duck liver mousse with some wood sorrel. So we get this wood sorrel from the same woods that we tap the trees from.
Sure.
So like really lovely and acidic leaf, like a herb. Some toasted nuts that we toast over the fire. So it's basically loosely based off the dish that we did on the first series of Great British Menu. We did a dish called Nuts About Trees, and it was kind of like tree syrup, nuts, livers, and we've been doing that one recently. But the first dish that we used to do it with was a waffle. We used to make like a really lovely waffle with sour cream. So we make our own sour cream and stuff, and then fucking drench it in it. And that was a bit of a joke.
Amazing.
But yeah, it's good with anything really. Like the kids love it.
Nice.
on porridge and stuff. Which, if you were selling it, you'd be selling it for like 100 quid a litre.
Because of the work.
Yeah.
Labour
Yeah.
intensive.
Yeah.
So labour intensive.
Yeah.
I hope that's not one of those ingredients that like big industries get hold of, you know, and it just becomes
it's made in the same way as maple.
Yeah, I was going to ask about maple. I know they tap into it similar, right?
You don't have the yield. So there is some companies that make it, and I've tried that, and it
doesn't come close.
Fucking shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
I can hit into quick fires, boys.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Couple
Right,
of
we always
quick-fire
finish off
questions.
with a few quick fire questions, and a couple of random ones.
Yeah.
Favourite film?
Apart from The Notebook,
Ooh. What do you want?
favourite film. You know what? I knew what you were going to ask me this as well.
It's a hard one, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, we've had Con Air. We've had
Saving
Star
Private
Wars.
Ryan is up there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a great film.
Fantastic
Roller
film.
coaster, that one.
It is a mental film.
I've not watched it with the dry eye yet, and I've seen it a lot.
Do you know what gets me with that?
Different parts get me now.
But it's the sound for me. You know when they get off the boat, right at the
yeah.
beginning, that noise. I feel like you're ducking. I swear I was ducking in the cinema.
That was the first film
on
I
the
watched
sofa.
on a 3D sound system at home.
Oh my god!
And I was like, fucking hell, is this what 3D? And like, it was like we'd just brought a new TV at the house, and my dad went on one of these impulse purchases and just sort of brought the TV with this surround sound system, and he was like, surround sound on this, and everyone's like, oh yeah, okay. And then it was like
Typical dad thing to say,
DVDs were brand new and like really cool, and he's like puts it on, and we're like, fucking hell, what has just happened?
It is an incredible
great
movie.
film.
It's a good film.
Is it a true story? It's based
What,
on
the war?
There was a war.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it was a landing. There was
Back
a
to
day. I don't know, but I mean,
You mean the
premise of it?
yeah.
The three brothers.
I'm sure that happened a lot.
Yeah,
it's got to be based off something, hasn't it?
something, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least loosely.
Yeah.
Favourite
Seems
chocolate
alien.
bar?
Double Decker's got everything in it.
Nice.
Yeah. Double
You're on
decker.
the double decker
Mate,
bandwagon.
all day.
Yeah.
What chocolate bar would you don't go for then? What was like your last on the list?
Aero.
Oh,
It's just air.
it's crunchy for me.
I want.
Flake.
Messy.
What's the point?
You're
Nothing
not
to
a
it,
flake,
yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
learned something the other day about a flake. It's like some stupid reel on TikTok or something.
It's offcuts.
You
It's got milk in
can't
it.
melt a flake.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
that's
challenge
The way they
Yeah.
the way they make it, he had it on a hot plate. On
What?
this, and the hot
just
plate
burns.
was
Does
like
it just
150, yeah, and it doesn't melt. So the process of making a flake, it doesn't melt. It's
I
weird.
don't want to know what's in it.
I don't know.
No.
Probably not.
Favorite music or band?
You know what? I've gone down this really, really weird rabbit hole recently of listening to like country music.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm nuts for it. I like every opportunity. And the guys are in the kitchen are like, oh no.
Throw the CD out the window.
Yeah, it's one of those.
She broke my heart, so I broke her jaw.
Used to go all the time.
He has been
Sick.
singing that every day since he watched Varsity Blues.
No, I
Absolutely loves it.
I love that. That's a great film.
That's a great film.
Have you
Really good
seen
film.
that country singer who like blew up recently? The guy with the big ginger beard.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan was
Oliver
sharing him.
something or other.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that song. It's a great
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, it just
God, he has blown up, hasn't he?
It blew up on Instagram, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah, it was a great one. That was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, country music at the moment, like, take a bit of anything really on that front. But
I've never really been down that country music road. I'm not.
yeah, be careful.
Is it?
Watching Yellowstone, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to listen to a bit of country music, and then I just feel sick. And in a couple of weeks' time, well, in a week's time, I'm driving. Me and my twin brother, we're driving to Scotland, which is going to take. We're going to Inverness as well, so it's going to take us, I think, like at least 12 hours.
Oh yeah.
And country music for 12 hours, like if we haven't started
Two
crying,
corpses in the side of the road.
if we haven't started crying, one of us is dead.
Favorite pot noodle.
Oh, I stay away from that shit. But
Yeah.
the missus loves them. We'll come home from work sometimes. She's like, I'm just gonna make something to eat. I'm like, if it's a fucking pot noodle.
Yeah,
And she has
Throw it
like,
out the window.
she has this chicken. The green one is a chicken.
Yeah, the
mushroom.
green one.
Stinks.
chicken and sweet corn.
Yeah, absolutely horrible.
Oh, I can get that down.
But yeah,
easy. I like a
not
green one.
not really about pot noodles, but
Fair enough.
beef and tomato is yeah, probably the one I'd go for.
Just about manageable. Well, I'm good on the quick fires.
Oh, I'm good.
After that wealth of information, yeah.
Nath, it's been absolutely awesome, mate.
It's been great.
Cool.
Absolutely
Yeah, thank
loved
you
it.
so
Thanks
much.
very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Thank you.